Resident Evil, welcome to Raccoon City. Yet another installment in the long-failed Resident Evil cinematic universe, because that's what it is at this point. There's how many different films, most of them starring C or D-rate actors and actresses, like Milla Jovovich, who need a payday more so than they want to do a proper adaptation of the game into the film medium. But this one promises to press the reset button. Indeed, this film says that we're going to take a respectful approach to the source material, and we're going to give the fans what they want, a true horror experience. Well, if that was the approach, I'm very curious why Leon is suddenly Mexican, but that aside, this promises to be a true down-to-the-gritty dirt Resident Evil movie, complete with shots ripped straight from the original video game. You know, what's odd about that is they're promising it to be a true adaptation, yet we're combining storylines. We've got Resident Evil 1 storyline in here. We got Resident Evil 2 storyline in here. The casting is all over the place. Absolutely none of the characters look anything like their video game counterparts, but yet we're told by the director and the studio behind this film that it is indeed a faithful recreation of the original games that we loved so much as children or young adults. Now, what I find curious about this is when I sat down to watch Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, I certainly will not be returning to Raccoon City, no matter how much they welcome me. This film is what happens when a studio and a crackpot director and a large amount of money come together. They do an insane amount of drugs, and they think that they're going to appeal to the gamer audience. This film misses on every single front. This film is a catastrophic failure, not just as a video game adaptation, but even if viewed as a just regular horror film. You don't know anything about Resident Evil, this does nothing to change your mind. It's bland. The characters do not feel anything like their video game counterparts. Resident Evil has always kind of had a campy B-level grade of horror to it, with some genuinely shocking and scary moments.
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right.
That does not translate here. Furthermore, it's clear. It is incredibly clear that the scriptwriter along with the director have a surface level understanding of what made the first three Resident Evil games great. It was not zombies. It was not quote unquote jump scares. In this film are incredibly ineffective. What made the first three Resident Evil games great was the ending credits, because they're all overrated piles of trash, and trying to adapt them to a film medium where you're removing the player interactivity element that makes a video game, you know, a video game, then at that point you're left with a hollow shell. Something bearing the Resident Evil name, but bearing none of its substance. Resident Evil is the most overrated series in the world, and I'm proud to say that in addition to, 13 failed past Resident Evil movies, we've got another one to throw on the list. This is something that I would expect to see sitting at home late night, 2 or 3 a.m., stoned out of my mind, and I put on the Sci-Fi Channel. I expect this to air between an Asylum film and Sharknado 4, because the type of movie this is, this low-brow, budget, low-hanging fruit, catastrophic joke of a film made by a bunch of degenerates behind a camera, a bunch of talentless actors, and a bunch of hacks at the script writing wheel, is fit only for the bargain bin. They should be paying you to watch this trash, not vice versa. And if somebody watches this film, as I'm sure many will, and they're going to come on YouTube and praise it for being faithful to the source material and just the best adaptation of Resident Evil that one could imagine, they're filthy fucking liars. They are paid off shills. They are misrepresenting the end product. I've always been about telling you the truth. The truth is this: Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City might bear the Resident Evil name. It might bear characters named Leon, Claire, Chris. It might bear everything that you would think makes Resident Evil Resident Evil. But the fucking heart and soul is missing, and it is never going to work in a film medium. I give Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City 0 out of 10. I cannot recommend it unless you are pulling a prank on your least favorite family member and you buy it for them for Christmas. This film is an insult to any Resident Evil fans, but quite frankly, the same fans who suck off that brain-dead, lifeless, repetitive franchise that struggled with an identity crisis over the last 20 years are just the same type of people I can see going on YouTube and saying, well, guys, Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City was a surprise hit, but first, a word from our sponsors.